I am joined on this stage at this moment by Senator Barbara Boxer. Had an opportunity to chat with her briefly in the back, and we were just enthralled with Christine Pelosi's report to us that there were a crowd of you here and that the age was the future, and we absolutely love it. And as I look around, I don't see anybody that I've dated before. That's a tremendous improvement over the last group that I do want to welcome you and to tell you that although the weather is, odd for San Francisco and what have you, it's wonderful to share this time period with the first family as they send their daughter off to college. I went through that 3 times, and my daughters, both of them went to school in New York, and the last one I left her, she told me she cried 2 weeks, and she's never returned to San Francisco since, in 10 years. So much for the break. But as parents, you go through it with them, and I know they're going through it with them. Your appearance this evening, I think, will warm their hearts. Let me now present to you the senator, one of the senators from the state of California, I guess I should say. I just say the senator from the state of California. Senator Boxer is so delightful. She is such a great advocate. She is such a symbol of the future of the Democratic Party, and she is so dogged about those things which are of great benefit to California. Her advocacy makes every second of my and your time in ensuring her re-electability and ensuring her tenure in Washington as a U.S. Senator from the state of California is well worth it. She's been most effective at bringing about institutional changes in the governmental delivery system for this nation, not only through the quality of the personnel, but through the kinds of issues that are focused upon by the Senate. Ladies and gentlemen, let me present to you Senator Barbara Boxer.
Hi. Thank you so much. Mayor Brown, it's a delight to be here with you. It always is, and the spirit that you govern with is something that I think is so important because it is a spirit of optimism, it is a spirit of can-do, and after all, that is the Democratic spirit. And so we thank you for your leadership for the city and county of San Francisco. Now, I want to ask a question of the people in charge of this event. Is it true that the First Lady and the President are nearby and that when I introduce them, they actually will walk out? I need to know, because this is serious. I've been in this position before and they go like this. So tell me, sir, my friend, is it true that I can just do 2 minutes and they're going to be here? Oh, it's great news. Oh, okay. Because I was kind of out of jokes, So first, let me say how proud I am that Chelsea Clinton is now a California resident. Yes. And we all welcome her to Northern California, and we wish her a memorable 4 years of learning, of growing, and of privacy. Privacy. She deserves it. And let me say how proud I am of our President and our First Lady. Together they have put children on the map, they have put education on the map, and they have put health care on the map. And we owe them both a great deal for their advocacy of those issues and so many others. And third and finally, I want to say to our President how much we in California appreciate his ongoing concern for our economy, our environment, and our future. He knows that diversity is our strength as America becomes a leader of the global economy. And his optimistic spirit, the kind that I talked about a moment ago, is so valuable to us here in California. He appeals to the best in us at a time when so many politicians would divide us. He's a breath of fresh air to this state. And so, ladies and gentlemen, accompanied by Christine Pelosi, I present to you the First Lady of the United States, Hillary Rodham Clinton, and the leader of the free world, the President of the United States of America, William Jefferson Clinton.
As the youngest elected member of the Democratic National Committee and a very proud member of the Saxophone Club, I am honored and privileged to introduce to you the First Lady this evening. Now, before I do so, I want to make sure she knows who you are. This is the Saxophone Club in Northern California. These are the people who believe in the Democratic Party, in our ideals, and who know without a doubt that without Bill Clinton as president and without Hillary Clinton as the First Lady, we wouldn't have the conversation we have today about health care. We wouldn't have the expanded health care coverage. We wouldn't have AIDS funding. We wouldn't have breast cancer coverage. We wouldn't have a safer environment. We wouldn't have an assault weapons ban. We would not have the Brady Bill. We would not have a fight for affirmative action. We would not have a woman's reproductive right safe and secure the way we do now. We wouldn't have all those things if it were not for Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton. And on a personal level, for those of us, young women and young men, who are engaging in the juggle and the struggle of family and career, we know what a life it's been for Hillary Rodham Clinton. We know that 30 years of being a wife, almost 20 years of being a mother, of being an incredible professional, but also of reaching out and traveling around the world with her wonderful daughter, Chelsea, to meet women, to look into the eyes of poor children, and to give them hope, gives all of us hope. So please join me in a San Francisco welcome for our First Lady, Hillary Rodham Clinton.
Thank you very much, Christine, and I'm delighted that we could be here with all of you today. I'm always happy to be anywhere with your mayor. He and I have gotten into trouble before. I bet we'll get in trouble together again sometime in the future because we do like to have fun with each other. But it is great to be in I know enough about Mayor Brown, I'm not going to clarify that. He will dine out on that for weeks and weeks at my expense. That's all right, that's all right. I'm glad to be in this city, and particularly to be here with one of the great senators in the United States Senate, Barbara Boxer, who does such a great job for California. And I love seeing Barbara go toe-to-toe, because she doesn't go head-to-head with many people. But she goes toe-to-toe with anybody over all kinds of issues, no matter what they are. When she believes that there's a matter of principle involved, and when she's standing up for a lot of issues and people who don't often get their voices heard as loudly as they need to in Washington. And it is great to see all of you. I look out here and I do see some familiar faces, but what's exciting is that I see so many new faces, and I see so many people who are here for the first time. Maybe even the first time you've ever given to a political party, maybe the first time you've ever come to an event like this, and that is absolutely terrific, because you're making a statement that needs to be made by more and more Americans. You know, people come up to me all the time and they say, how can you stand politics? And I know what they're talking about, because I know that they see the back and forth and all of the criticism, and they are asking in a personal way, how can you stand to be involved in all of that? But I always ask them, you know, if they're involved in any kind of group or organization that they care about, they're a member of a club or a church or even a family, because politics with a small p is how we make decisions together. And in a democracy, it is what we all bring to the table to try to decide what we're going to do for ourselves, our families, and our communities. So I'm pleased and I'm proud to be in politics in the United States, the world's longest surviving democracy. And you don't have to be an elected official like the mayor or the senator to be in politics. If you're a citizen, you're the most important player in the political process, more important than anybody who's elected, because without our consent, without our activism, there wouldn't be any ongoing democracy. So your being here is a statement of your commitment and belief in what is critical to the success of this country and our political system. And you've given money, which in a democracy like ours, the way that we fund our political campaigns and our parties is absolutely essential. And I'm proud that you'd be willing to be here to support the Democratic Party, because the Democratic Party has made a difference for many years, but if we just look back on the last 5 years, it's made a significant difference in the quality of life and the opportunity of so many millions of Americans. And it's put our country, because of the particular philosophy and policies that have been advocated by the President and the Vice President and supported by the Democratic Party, it's put our country on a much firmer footing for the future. So thank you for being part of that. Thank you for taking your citizenship seriously. Thank you for believing and understanding in the importance of politics. I hope you'll talk to your friends and neighbors and colleagues about why you were here today and why it was important to come and make a contribution and be part of this process. And we're here in part because we believe in the Democratic Party and the politics and policies that it promotes and stands for, but we're also here because we've been fortunate to have leadership over the last 4.5 years that have put that philosophy into action. And there are many, many things, as Christine briefly mentioned, that we could talk about that have been accomplished because of the leadership of the President and the Vice President. So it's my great pleasure to bring the saxophone player in the company of some fabulous musicians to the podium, the President of the United States.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm always uneasy when Hillary's up here about to introduce me. I never know what is really going to be said. You know, it's the world's worst kept secret that we took our daughter to Stanford over the weekend and bid her goodbye yesterday. And so from like 6 o'clock on, Hillary and I are officially overseeing one of America's empty nests. And I've been thinking about how I was going to fill it. I was thinking about maybe I would get a dog to go with socks, you know. And I heard Hillary talking, I thought that Willie was going to move in with us. I didn't know. Mayor, I love you, but they need you here. They need you. I love to come to San Francisco. I love the community. It was wonderful when we got off the highway and we were coming up, we came up from Palo Alto and we were coming up through the streets, and I now know, I've made that trip so many times from the airport that I know every block, you know. And there's a little marker on every block, and I see the neighborhoods change, and I look for the people to change in the street, you know, and I can always sort of measure how I'm doing by whether it's the same good response in every block, and then when I'm not doing so good, there's a difference in the neighborhood. And once I was doing so poorly, there was no difference in any of the neighborhoods the other way. But I always love coming here where the people are so expressive and so alive and so committed, I think, to building the kind of community that involves all Americans that our whole country needs. And so I'm very glad to be here. I want to hear this band. Is the name of this band really LaVey Smith and her Red Hot Band? Is that really what this band? I like that. That's good. And I love all these 1940s ties, you know. It's great. It's another part of San Francisco, right? I want to just say a couple of things seriously. First of all, I love this Saxophone Club. And every Saxophone Club meeting I've been to since I started out in 1992, and some bright young person had the idea of forming it, has kind of reaffirmed my faith in America, because it gives people a chance to participate in the democratic process, to contribute at a modest level, and to feel like they're a part of our administration. We also have all kinds of people in the Saxophone Club, including people of all ages. It used to be, when we started out, there were only young people in the Saxophone Club. And I decided that was discriminatory, and I see we've taken care of that here tonight. We have a wider range of people, which I think is good. But I'd just like to say, as I'm very much thinking about this today, is that we started our daughter on her college education. Our administration has been very much about the future of this country, about trying to fix America's present problems and organize our country in a way that will enable us to have the best years of America in the 21st century. So when I ran for president, I said that I had a rather simple vision, which I still think about every single day. I want this country to be a place where everybody who will work for it has the opportunity to live out their dreams. I want this country to be a place that people still look to lead the world toward peace and freedom and prosperity. And in some ways, most important of all, I want this country to be a place where we not only tolerate, not just respect all of us for our differences, but we actually celebrate them and are still bound together by a set of common values which make us all Americans and enable us to have one America with all of our differences. In a world in which people are killing each other tonight, are full of hatred tonight in different places because of all of their differences, I think it's very important that we build that kind of America. And I'm glad that what we sought to do has worked for our country. I'm proud of the fact that we cut the deficit by 80% even before we passed the balanced budget plan. I'm proud of the fact that we've invested in education. I'm proud of the fact that this new budget has the biggest increase in education funding since 1965. And the biggest increase in helping people go to college since the GI Bill was passed 50 years ago. When all these tax incentives, work-study positions, and Pell Grants and IRAs get in place, it will literally be possible for us to say that every person in this country who's willing to work for it can get a college education. For the first time in history, we can say that. And that's important. I'm proud of it. Christine talked about what we try to do in healthcare, but health insurance in this budget for half the kids in America. 5 million of them don't have health insurance. More work for the 16 million families that are affected with diabetes. New advances to help people deal with breast cancer and prostate cancer and other things. We're moving in this health area. I'm proud of that. I'm proud of the fact that the crime rate's gone down 5 years in a row, and that we were able to defeat our opponents in the other party who were against the assault weapons ban, who were against the Brady Bill, and who were against putting 100,000 more police on the street. They were wrong on all three counts, and the crime rate is going down because we listen to law enforcement people and community people. I'm proud of that. I'm proud of the fact that we waged a war to protect the basic fabric of nourishing the environment through clean water and clean air and setting aside natural spaces, all those things that were under so much assault in 1995 and early 1996. I'm proud of the fact that we have the lowest welfare rolls we've had in a long time and the smallest percentage of Americans on public assistance since 1970. I'm proud of that. But there is a lot more to do in this country because we're still changing very fast. We have to figure out a way now to make this economic growth available to Americans in neighborhoods and rural communities that haven't accessed it. We have to figure out a way to make the technological revolution that America is leading the way in broadly available in all the schools in our country and to people who, if they had access to it, could make more of their own lives. We have to figure out a way to keep the whole rate of growth with low inflation going on. We have to figure out a way to continue to sell our products and services to the rest of the world in a way that helps developing countries and helps Americans as well. We have to figure out a way to grow the economy while reducing the amount of pollution of the environment and the amount of greenhouse gases we're putting into the atmosphere. Otherwise, we may leave our children, and certainly will leave our grandchildren, with a legacy where they may be money rich and nature poor in ways that we can never forgive ourselves for doing. So we still have a lot of big challenges out there. We have a world that is still not free of danger, as we all know. We have to figure out a way to continue to work on the nuclear threat until it doesn't exist anymore. And then we must, at least by the 21st century, have organized ourselves to deal with all those problems we all face that can cross national borders and are moving more quickly now because of technology, terrorism, drug trafficking, the promotion of war and killing based on ethnic or religious or racial or other hatreds. All these things that we have to face together. So there's a lot left to be done. And in the next 3 years and some odd months, I just want you to know that I intend to work down to the last minute of the last hour of the last day to make sure that we continue to make progress to the American people. How are we going to, yeah, you can clap for that. I want you to understand what this is about, what your being here is about. We have honest differences. Now, we had a principled agreement on this balanced budget agreement where both sides got something they wanted. Because we had done our party had done 80% of the work in balancing the budget. We could all say we wanted to balance the budget and still get some things we wanted with a growing economy. And I want to search for principled bipartisan compromise whenever I can, at home and abroad. There are those who think we should never do that. I think that's plain wrong. Whenever we can agree in good conscience, we should agree. But I don't want you to forget either that there are choices to be made. And there are honest differences. You know, today I was at a school which was the first charter school created in California when California became only the second state in our country to say that we ought to let public schools just be created and get rid of a lot of the red tape that are in a lot of these school districts and let them start up. I met a young lawyer, mayor, who gave up his law practice to start a charter school here in San Francisco, and I met one of his students today. And it was awesome to think about our public school system basically sprouting 1,000 flowers, all having only one thing: they got to produce results. Kids have to learn. They have to prove they can learn. They have to show they can know something. But otherwise, we believe that we ought to let creative people get in there and prove that all of our children can learn without regard to their race or their background or their income. Now, there's a big fight going on in Congress now because some people would like to just write a check to the states and let them decide what to do with all the federal education money. I don't think that's a very good idea here, do you? And I think it would be a mistake for us not to be promoting the charter school movement. I think it would be a mistake. We need more of them. I think it would be, 2 years ago, I came to San Francisco and said, we're going to wire every classroom and every library and every school in America by the year 2000. Today, the percentage of California schools that are hooked up to the internet is twice what it was 2 years ago. The percentage of classrooms hooked up to the internet in California alone is 4 times what it was just 2 years ago. We are supporting that with a specific program directed to these local school districts. I think it would be a mistake for us to back away from that and say, we ought to let all 50 states decide whether that's a priority or not. If it is, fine. If it's not, walk away from it. I don't agree with that. So we have these philosophical differences. The Senate, in a bipartisan show of support, agreed with me last week that we ought to have a nonpartisan board develop national examinations to have national standards of academic excellence in the basics of reading and mathematics for our children. Overwhelming vote in the House, led by the leaders of the other parties, said no. I personally think that is crazy. I don't think you can have international standards of education if you don't measure them. I don't want to run the schools. I'm trying to get less bureaucracy in the schools. I just want to say, here are the results, measure them, you figure out how to solve the problem, inspire your kids, but don't tell me that all our children can't learn. So there's a big philosophical difference there. I think that's important. So you must never forget that all this matters. You must never forget. You look at the judges that I have appointed, and the fact that, that's right. They're not only the most diverse group by race and gender in the history of the Republic, they have the highest rating from the American Bar Association of any presidents since the American Bar Association has been rating the appointments of the president to judgeships. But what happens? The United States Senate, under the control of the other party, for the last 2 years, last year was the only time in 40 years, even in an election year, they hadn't confirmed one judge to the Court of Appeals. Right now, over 50 of them sitting up there waiting to be confirmed. Why? Well, one congressman said that he wanted to intimidate them. And one of the senators said it sounded like a good idea to him. Well, I hope they won't be intimidated, and I think the Senate ought to do its constitutional duty and confirm the judges, and I'm going to keep appointing people that I think are mainstream, well-qualified judges that can represent America instead of one political point of view. And I think you believe that, and I hope you support me on that. And so there are reasons why you're here. And I want to challenge you. I want you to go out to your friends and neighbors and say, look, I went to this event and I became a part of this group. And I did it because I wanted to have a say in the world our children and grandchildren live in. And here's why I did that. And I think you ought to make a decision too. I believe that we need a government in Washington that is not committed to solving people's problems for them, but at least will give them the tools to solve their problems themselves. I believe that. I believe that there are some things that we can only enjoy if we enjoy them in common, and therefore we must achieve them together, like clean air and safe drinking water and natural spaces we protect, along with national security. That's what I believe. And I believe that we have to achieve this future together. So I want you to leave here proud of being here. I want you to leave here full of energy from being here. And I want you to leave here committed to getting others enlisted in our cause. Every member of the Democratic caucus in the U.S. Senate has endorsed the McCain-Feingold Campaign Finance Reform Bill. If we can pass it, and we've been trying now, every year I have endorsed a good bill, and every year the other party has filibustered it to death in the Senate. And still, you know, if you read about it, you can't tell who's on what side. It's a mystery to me because it's clear what happened. And they say they're going to do it again, but they may not get away with it. So if we can pass good campaign finance reform, then two things will have to happen. Number one, we have to get reduced cost or free TV time for candidates so they can still communicate in California. And the second thing is, you'll be even more important. You'll be even more important because we'll have to expand your numbers. So I say again, when you leave here, you just remember what Hillary said. I normally agree with what she said. But when she said you were the most important person in this democratic enterprise, that is the truth. And we have to decide now. We are still in the process of defining what America will be like in the 21st century. We are still in the process of doing that. And I've got a very long agenda of things that I'm committed to doing in the next 3 years that I want to be your agenda. But I want you to think most importantly about the big issues. 20, 30, 40 years from now, wouldn't you like to be able to say that every child in this country who will work for it can live out his or her dreams? Wouldn't you like to be able to say that your country is still leading the world toward a more peaceful, more free, more prosperous state? Wouldn't you like to be able to say that out of all the ashes of all the problems that we have seen from the Middle East to Northern Ireland to Bosnia to Rwanda and Burundi to you name it, America rose up at the end of the 20th century to be a country where there was no single race or ethnic group in the majority, but we got along and we worked together and we respected and celebrated our differences and then defined what we had in common to make us one America. That's what I want, and that's what you're making possible. Thank you, and God bless you. Now, I just want you to remember one other thing. Re-elect Barbara Boxer.